The world has entered the second decade of the 21st century, and many of the predictions about how our planet and its people would be affected by our actions of the 20th century are becoming reality. Global warming, sea level rise, freshwater and food scarcity, and economic disparity now are all common features of the 21st century landscape, problems that need to be solved. But what if there were an answer to these challenges? And the answer existed in Egypt, drawing upon its resources of unlimited access to seawater, millions of hectares of unused desert lands, and abundant agricultural skilled labor. Welcome to the Egyptian coast of the Red Sea. For the past 40 years, technologies to grow food and produce biofuel on untreated seawater have been developed, demonstrated, and refined into what is known today as Integrated Seawater Agriculture Systems, or ISIS. An ISIS is a fully integrated, closed-loop system that combines seawater and desert land to produce significant quantities of both biofuels and seafood aquaculture. It is the integrated nature of the system that makes it both profitable and environmentally meaningful. In Mexico, seawater crops have been successfully grown on the same land for over 30 years. And commercial-scale ISIS operations have been achieved on a 1,000-hectare project in Eritrea, East Africa. These same technologies will be put to work by Nile Co along the Red Sea coastline. The Red Sea project will commence with an initial phase of 20,000 hectares and eventually encompass 50,000 hectares. Nile Co's ISIS project will use 100% untreated seawater pumped directly from the Red Sea into 160 kilometers of seawater rivers that flow inland. The rivers will flow along the most energy-efficient paths possible, taking full advantage of the existing terrain, and appear to meander naturally within the project area. Our Red Sea project will create 6,500 new jobs and tens of thousands of indirect employment opportunities. And it will bring Egypt a step closer to ensuring long-term food, energy, and water independence. Importantly, the key components required to assure the Red Sea project's success are plentiful in Egypt. Untreated seawater, whose only cost will be pumping it from the sea. Desert land, which will be acquired from the government through a long-term agricultural development lease. And labor, both skilled and unskilled. The first products to be produced along our seawater rivers will be shrimp, fish, and sea cucumbers. A byproduct of this aquaculture production is nutrient-rich seawater that has been the bane of environmentally conscious organizations for decades. However, for Nile Co, it is a vital resource carried by our seawater rivers, used to irrigate and fertilize crops of salicornia, mangroves, and another half-dozen halophytic or salt-loving crops. Salicornia is a naturally salt-tolerant plant indigenous to Egypt. In addition to the large quantities of biomass Salicornia yields, 30% of its seed is a high-quality vegetable oil, which can be used to produce biofuels such as biodiesel and biojet fuel, which are already in great demand in the international aviation and vehicle markets. The remaining 70% can be used as meal to produce a protein-rich animal feed supplement. Mangroves are also naturally salt-tolerant. When forested, mangroves can produce vast quantities of stems used for construction, firewood, and particle board, and leaves for animal feed in the form of fodder for cattle, goats, and sheep, which is also in high demand in Egypt. At the same time, mangroves are removing large quantities of carbon from the atmosphere, another valuable product we will sell as carbon credits. Our seawater rivers, now more saline from evaporation along their path, next move into wetlands, where birds and other creatures will naturally migrate, adding an important element of environmental enrichment. Eventually, the seawater will percolate through the ground and be naturally filtered, but a significant amount of it will evaporate to produce salt for sale in the region. Nile Co is about creating wealth in the form of jobs for the people of Hurghada and Ras Ghareb. It's about economic diversification, bringing sustainable agriculture to a part of Egypt never before contemplated. It's about food security for the region's most populous nation. And it's about sustainable biofuel production, meeting the needs of international markets without sacrificing precious freshwater supplies and arable land. The challenges we created in the 20th century can only be overcome through innovative and extraordinary 21st century solutions. That's what new Nile Co's Red Sea project represents, and its vision, scale, and scope will help to transform Egypt and the world.